it's going to get kind of nerdy, but the information is, we're not just here for, craps and giggles. We try to assimilate, we try to pass on pertinent information that, people who might listen to this show may need. If you got kids and you want to find out what's going on, if you're showing up at the park, every year and you feel like, there's less kids than there were last year, that's not just your imagination, it's real. This chart here, this it says if a child who didn't play any sports wanted to take up one, which of these would be most likely to suggest? Would the parent be most likely to suggest? 24% once again in soccer, only 4% for football. This one kind of alarmed me, and when you talk about these polls, you always have to take into consideration who's being polled and where they're getting these polls from, because you're an idiot. Baseball and softball got 30%, which was weird to me, but then basketball only got 15%. So I would only assume that the majority of the 1,000 people who were polled were of white descent and not African American. Because just by the way, this dude is an idiot. Don't pay attention to him. I'm trying to give you guys real information, and he's being an idiot. The basketball number seems low at 15%, but then hockey again is at 1%, and it just says some other sport or not sure. But then, because I forgot to mention this part, at the bottom, it does break it down into race. And I'm only going to go through a few of them. Soccer, the total is 24%, but 22% were white. Here's funny: 23% are black, and what you can
believe that.
What you can expect is 30% is Hispanic. You can pretty much expect that. And in football,
were they Black American? That's the other thing. Were they Black Americans though?
Yeah, I would assume if they put black, they're talking about Americans, because they do have Hispanic here as well.
Okay.
But then here's another part that's kind of just weird to me. Like, when you talk about who would the parents most likely suggest, or what sport? In baseball and softball, 33% are white. Of course, 21%, I can see that being black. But then only 24% for Hispanics. I would think that number would be more comparable to the soccer number as well. And then basketball, see, here it is. This is exactly what I was talking about. Basketball, the total is 15%, but it's 12% white, 19% Hispanic, and a big jump of 27% for the brothers. So my instincts were correct. The brothers want to play ball, or black parents want their kids to play ball. But the more serious part of the article is this part here, where it says the NFL consistently said that brain damage and degenerative diseases like CTE don't have any direct correlation with playing football. Again, they're wrong. I mean, they're wrong. Science tells you otherwise. The NFL pointed out that concussions in regular season games had dropped 25% from 2011 from what they had been in 2013. Concussions caused by helmet-to-helmet hits were now 28% during the same time period. Now, here's the part, though. Here's the thing they were always talking about: the subconcussed condition. You say, Mike, what is that? Okay, it's the repeat blows to the head that accumulate over time but never register as a concussion. They don't track that. These are the guys who, like O.C. Umenyiora, right, when he was playing for the Atlanta Falcons, said he played his whole career. This dude played like over a decade in the league and said he never had a concussion.
Yeah, right.
That's hard for me to believe. And I'm not saying he's lying, by the way. I'm not saying that, because it's possible that he didn't have a diagnosed concussion. But when we find out and we learn about these terms like subconcussed condition, and they're not being tracked, it's the repeated blows to the head, those thumps to the head they're not the knockout blow over the middle of the football field, not those, but what you can expect is offensive and defensive linemen, which O.C. Umenyiora was, that each and every play you're making contact with the head, especially on running plays. You're making contact. So those hits, those little what we might determine or call little hits, they add up. They add up. Those calcium deposits, which are the basis of the CTE diagnosis, they build up in the brain, and so forth and so on. Going from that to some of the things that we're seeing in the NFL, some of the behavioral things that going on, and I've talked about this before, but on a day like this, not a lot going on. I think it's important to continue to bring awareness to some of the symptoms of CTE and of these head traumas, people having like violent mood swings, people who weren't normally violent at points in their lives, all of a sudden scaring the crap out of their kids and their wives and their girlfriends. And the way the NFL has tried to attack or make you think they're attacking this domestic violence issue, at no point, and I challenge anyone to point me out a time where they've heard or seen this, where the NFL has said, well, maybe we ought to look at what's happening with these players mentally. Not just say, oh, man, these dudes are terrible dudes. They're wife beaters. Let's label them and kick them out of the league. Instead of doing that. And the reason that I'm going to assume they don't do that because they don't want to know what they're going to find. They don't want to see what they're going to find. Like if it comes back to them and these head injuries, oh, here we go again. Damn it. Why did somebody want to look at this? Yeah, because it's important. You know what I mean? I'll keep mentioning this name, Javon Belcher. This ain't Ray Rice. Somebody didn't get knocked out. They got murdered. Feel me? Then he killed himself in front of his bosses. And not a one PSA ran after that. You ain't see Chris Carter on the commercial crying and all this craziness, these awkward commercials. You ain't see that. He murdered his wife in the room next to where his brand new baby was sleeping. And no one sees anything wrong with that. You want to keep talking to me about a dude that punched his woman? Yeah, that's bad. That's horrible. But you know what's worse? The gunshot you can't come back from. That's what's worse. The NFL didn't seem to attack that. So when I call BS, I'm saying it for a reason. I'm saying it for what I feel like is a good reason. Because real domestic violence happened. And you want to start talking to me about Adrian Peterson giving his son an ass whipping. All right. All right. Yeah. Maybe not. We can have that conversation. You know what we can't have a conversation about? A dude killing his old lady. That kid from Georgia, and I hate that I always forget his name, that kid from Georgia that stood in front of his wife and his two young boys and blew his brains out in front of them. I don't want to talk about that. I mean, I don't want to talk about that. You know, the fact that he was beating on her before that, and he didn't understand himself why he was doing these things. So his only recourse, as the way he felt it was, to take himself out. He didn't want to hurt his wife and his babies no more. So it's like, I'm gone. Anybody see that on the PSA? Nah. No. Nah, because it wasn't on tape. And all these women's organizations didn't jump down Roger Goodell's throat, who, by the way, is the largest vagina in the world. The hugest, most gaping one in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that being said, we'll move on. All right. So anyway, it's Sports Kings Live. Sometimes I just got to get this stuff out of me, man, because I see these numbers and I know what the NFL's thinking. We got to figure out a way to change this. You know what I mean? We need, because that's part of the NFL's business model, replenishing the herd every year in April or May. We replenish the herd, right? We don't want that herd thinning out. We want to keep it stocked. But as long as we keep educating, especially educating moms, they're going to be like, hell no, I'm not putting my baby out there. Why? So he can end up beating up on his woman, killing himself or whatever? Nah, I'm good. You know, let's go play soccer, little Jimmy, or some basketball or something. The lead is football for the poor kids. And that's what's going to happen because there's going to always be kids that need to get out of a bad situation. You know, those kids are going to always be there. So, you know, they're going to play football, and their parents are going to encourage them to. And the risk will be worth the reward as they will see it, you know, from their perspective. So football ain't going nowhere. But just understand, over, you know, a decade, 2 decades, you're going to see it change. You know, the Peyton Mannings of the world, Tom Brady's of the world, the people who can afford not to. We've already seen a change. Kids, retiring at 24 years old. 23 years old, being like, yeah, you know what? Oh, speaking of ball, this is a perfect segue to Ballers, dude, to the conversation. You know who writes for that show, cuz?
I have no idea.
Former Pittsburgh Steeler, former the Arizona Cardinal, former Illinois Illini, Rashard Mendenhall, retired at 26 years old because he was like, my body's getting a little bit too broke up. Yeah, that dude is a Hollywood writer now. Yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it. That's awesome, cuz. Read that today when I was looking up these stories of these dudes who retired early and stuff. Yeah, his name came up. Yeah, out there writing scripts. He's a writer on the show. And I guess when the article was written, the show didn't have a name yet, but they described it. You know, a new HBO show about a former athlete. And I was like, oh, look at that. Rashard Mendenhall. Who knew? Yeah, man. But anyway, so you saw the show last night. We got 4.5 minutes. We got plenty of time to talk about it. You saw the show last night?
Yep. As soon as we got done, I got on on demand and checked it out.
Thoughts?
To see what The Rock was cooking.
See what The Rock is cooking. Steroids is what The Rock is cooking, by the way. to answer the question. Like, that dude gets bigger every time you see him and more cut.
Hey, boy, I saw a vein in his bicep that I ain't never even seen in nobody before.
Right.
Like, what the hell is
dude
that?
Is massive. He's like 45 years old and in better shape than any 20-year-old you'll find anywhere.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah. Yeah, HGH and steroids is, boy.
But, that's
his,
his,
The Rock.
Yeah, that's his livelihood. He's supposed to look like that for the roles that he gets. So, whatever. I do it too. No, not even asking a question. Like, that's how I made my money. Bet. I'm in all the way. I'm get on a nice little regiment too. A nice little monitored regiment. Not like some idiots in a bathroom stall shooting themselves up.
Shooting it in your butt. Yeah.
But anyway, no, we got 3 minutes. So go ahead. Tell me what you thought about the show.
Well, of course, it started off with the retired football player and the white chick. Like you told me when you were saying it was reminded you of Steve McNair. Yeah, and that part was crazy. The whole LaToya Luckett conversation with The Rock, that was crazy as well. Then the guy that needed the loan from The Rock, I forget what that character's name was. But when they initially show him and he got all his family, and I'm talking about everybody just living there, and they all just they just there. And I was like, damn. But then when The Rock came, it was like they were having a party, and he knew nobody.
Like,
and it's like,
Doc, I don't know.
I don't know. But you need a $300,000 loan for me, and obviously, what we end up finding out right at the very end of the episode was that was The Rock's last $300,000 because when he went to the bank, he and his wife they going to a movie. He go to withdraw $200, and he has insufficient funds. Insufficient funds.
I think it's gonna be a good show. His name was Vernon.
I think so.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good show, man.
But this how you know it's gonna be a good show. When they don't start it out and give you all these sex scenes like Power. That's when you know it's going to be a good show when there's actually some substance some substance to the writing. They don't have to
no
they
filler.
don't have to go like we having a dead moment. You know what? Right, we want you to bang your wife.
And here's the thing. It's the perfect show for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You talk about NFL players.
Yeah.
They had one sex scene that was about 20 seconds long with the dude in the bathroom.
And I thought that you remember when they were at the funeral and dude was talking about, we should get a few of these chicks before we leave, da 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 da. At that moment, I was like, see, now this is where it's about to go wrong, and they about to have an orgy or something that Mike didn't tell me about. Yeah, but it ended up being a really good show. I can't wait for the next episode.
No doubt. And finally, as we wrap up here, I just wanted to give you guys the description before we wrap the show up. It said he served as a script consultant for an upcoming HBO series about the life of retired pro football players. Go ahead, Rashard Mendenhall. He actually, when he retired in 2013 at the age of 2016, and had a plan. You know what I mean? Had something he wanted to do afterwards. So good for that brother. We are the Sports Kings. Big Mike, Rob Calloway. You've been listening to Sports Kings Live as I look for my outro music here. Sorry, y'all. We can't leave the show without it. It just wouldn't be right.
I thought you had it set like it automatically started playing it like a minute here.
Oh no, this is all manual, dude.
You really paying attention. Oh, so you really paying attention?
Yeah,
Right, well.
yeah, I do it manually. Don't forget, we're being heard Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Tell a friend to tell a friend on Spreaker.com and on the Spreaker app via your mobile device.